Kamusta? Welcome to the Aruga Show, the first conservative podcast in the Philippines. Our next guest is a member of Alliance for the Family Foundation Philippines, or ALFI. He's a lawyer. He spoke in Congress telling our dear legislators of the dangers of the SOGIE bill. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that he's on our side. Please welcome Attorney Joel Arzaga. Attorney, kamusta?
Mabuti naman, Jay. Maraming salamat sa invitation and good day to all of your listeners and viewers and all your followers. Magandang
Oh,
araw po sa inyong lahat.
ayun, all right. Bago natin simulan itong mainit na usaping SOGIE bill, gusto ko lang tanungin ka, attorney, about your background. What made you take up law and how did
Mm.
you end up in ALFI? How did you end up being an advocate for life, the family, and
Mhm,
marriage?
mhm. Oh, okay. Well, mapapasenti pala tayo ngayon. Well, my journey to becoming a lawyer really started from a conversation I had with my dad. I remember one
Mm,
Sunday afternoon, we were just driving around, kwento-kwento, ganyan. My dad is from Palawan. And sabi niya, and we were talking about my future plans, what I wanted
mm,
to do after college. And at that time, my dad was in public service. Actually, he's still an
mm,
elected official in Palawan.
mm,
So I asked him, what can I do to be of service to help out other people?
mm,
Sabi niya, kung gusto mong makatulong, alam mo, go to a jail
mm,
at magtanong ka kung sino yung walang abogado. For sure, madaming mga kailangan. So
mm,
for me, it started as that, as a desire to be of service to others. It sounds noble, pero yun talaga yung naunang nagudyok sa akin upang i-consider yung law.
ah,
Now, with regard to the advocacy
yeah.
of fighting for marriage, family, and of course the right to life, I'd say this is mainly inspired by my faith. I'm a
Mm,
Roman Catholic and
mm,
I try to take my faith seriously. And I know how much these values are held in high or are put on a pedestal for us Catholics.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yun, and I while I was in law school, I thought of a way, or I was thinking, how can I practice my profession and at the same time practice my faith and be of service to the church.
Yeah. Mm,
So the perfect opportunity came when I was about to do my internship. I was invited by our dean to join or to intern for the Alliance for the Family Foundation.
mm,
So doon
mm,
nung nagsimula, at first we were just attending meetings and then taking down the minutes, check ng attendance ng mga board members until eventually, yun, naiisama
mm.
na kami. I started contributing sa mga position papers sila and then nagtuloy-tuloy na
Nice. Nice.
yung involvement ko sa ALFI.
All right. For those who don't know ALFI, Alliance for the Family
Mhm.
Foundation, what is it all about?
Yes. So the Alliance for the Family Foundation Incorporated Philippines is a group of Filipinos from different sectors of society, of Philippine society. We have teachers, we have lawyers, we have
Mm,
doctors, we have housewives. And what brought us together is our desire to preserve and to protect traditional Filipino family
mm,
values. And in AFI, we try to be at the forefront of battles for the protection of these values. For example, the right to life, the sanctity of marriage and the family, and then ito na yung sa SOGI,
mm,
yung
mm,
the recognition of the human nature of how we really were made, by our God. So, if I may just share,
yeah.
one of
Sure.
our toughest battle so far was the battle against the RH bill.
Mm,
Alfie was one of the petitioners against the implementation of the reproductive health bill. Our president argued before the Supreme Court. So she stood there for, I think, more than 6 hours being grilled by the different justices of the Supreme Court. Now, I know that some people think that the RH advocates lost because the RH is now a law. But really, there were a lot of victories in that entire battle. One of which is the Supreme Court recognition that in the Philippines, and this is consistent with their constitution, we believe that life begins from the moment of conception, and
Nice.
that's quite an important
Uh-huh.
victory, because that means from the very first incipients of life, state protection must already come in. So yun yung una. Pangalawa,
Mm-mm.
naipanalo din natin yung declaration that that the contraceptives that had abortive effects, yung mga abortifacients,
Mm-mm.
were declared unconstitutional, and that they cannot be proliferated precisely because it's against the right to life. So yun, and we were able eventually to secure a TRO against
Yes.
the actual pending FDA's classification of those contraceptives na hindi classification of the contraceptives that were abortifacients. So
Yeah.
the effect was really until today the RH law, at least in terms of the widespread distribution of contraceptives, they have not been able to implement that fully. But then, yung medyo, meron din tayong laws doon, yung kanilang idea of sexual education, and they've
Mm-mm.
already started implementing that.
Oo nga.
So yun. So yes, Jay.
No. I just want to say na thank you for all your work sa Alfie, and I praise God that you're there. Although yung sex education nga, yeah, nakikita ko nga siya sa mga classes ngayon. And ito
Mm,
yung pag-usapan natin in this
mm,
episode of the podcast kasi
mm,
minsan dito na i-smuggle yung
tama.
mga gender and development
Mm,
stuff.
mm, mm,
Okay,
mm.
so pag-usapan na natin itong SOGIE bill.
Yung SOGIE, oo.
For those who don't know, what is SOGIE bill all about? And we know may good intentions naman yung mga
Mm,
nagpo-push ng bill na ito. So what
yes,
is
yes.
SOGIE bill on the surface muna? Then
Okay,
mamaya
sige,
pag-usapan natin yung mga fine prints dito.
sige, okay. So first, let's define SOGI as provided for in the bills.
Mm-mm.
There are versions both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. And I think they've been trying to get this bill passed for the last 10, 15 years. So SOGI stands for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity and Expression Bill.
Mm.
Basically, the narrative and the way they try to sell this bill is that this is an anti-discrimination measure, because they're saying
Mm.
that persons who experience same-sex attraction are prejudiced in society.
Mm.
What they're saying is that essentially, first, those same-sex persons with same-sex attraction experience alleged discrimination,
Mm.
which means that sabi nila, they are being treated less favorably against those persons without same-sex attraction. Second, sinasabi nila na kailangan ng panukalang batas na ito because those people with same-sex attraction are subjected to violence,
Mm.
harassment, ganyan,
Mm.
because of the mere fact that they are LGBT.
Mm.
And then, pangatlo, sinasabi nila that there's a need for this bill because of the inequality that those persons with same-sex attractions, those from the LGBT community, face. They say that they have less
Mm.
rights compared to all the others.
Mm.
So ito yung kanilang selling point.
Mm.
They're saying that we need this because if this is passed into law, this will cure discrimination, inequality, and violence against persons who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual,
Mm.
etc.
Yeah.
So yun yung kanilang narrative.
Okay. So I'm under the impression na kung discrimination lang, I think may batas na para dyan, and di na natin kailangan ng isa pang batas targeted sa sexual orientation and gender
Mm.
identity. Tama ba yung paniniwala ko na to?
Well, siguro more on their yung more on their narrative that it's needed to curb violence. Kasi
Mm.
yun yung inuuna nila na oh if you want to stop violence against the LGBT, let's pass the SOGIE bill. For
Okay.
that, for sure, it's already covered by laws, by
Yeah,
our revised
yung
penal code.
violence.
Yung yeah, mainly
Violent
the
crimes.
revised penal code.
Yung mga
Yes,
violent
oo.
crimes is covered naman ng ng
Yes.
batas.
So
So,
halimbawa, may sinaktan, 'di ba?
mm.
Maaari kahit naman sino babae, lalaki o kung anumang sexual orientation, may very well file a case for physical injuries. Kung
Yes.
halimbawa napuruan and there's an intent to kill, it could be frustrated murder or frustrated homicide as the case may be. So if it's
Mm.
mere violence, the remedies are already provided for by law and it's available to all. So
Mm.
saying that the SOGI bill will help solve violence, I think is wrong. It's just plain wrong, and it does not follow. And there's no need for an additional bill when we already have penal laws which cover that. Now, with regard to inequality,
Mm.
uh, it's hard to pinpoint really what sort of inequality it's the inequality that's being complained of.
Mm.
When all laws, when they are passed by Congress, they are made applicable to all persons, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about, for example, the
Mm.
right to marriage. We all have a right to marriage, but we cannot insist on changing the institution of marriage to fit our particular preference.
Mm.
The right to an insurance, sinasabi nila yun, the right to adopt, we all enjoy that right, or we at least have the opportunity to ask the court to allow us to adopt. But always, we do not make everything tailor fit our preference. Now, with regard to discrimination,
Mm.
um, the thing is, there are really laws which are aimed to discriminate either in favor or against a person.
Mm.
For example, the law discriminates in favor of laborers.
Uh-huh.
Halimbawa,
Uh-huh.
may labor dispute, ganyan. May sinasabi nila it's always
Uh-huh.
the ruled in favor of the laborer, parang ganyan. Or
Uh-huh.
uh, discrimination in favor of the accused sa criminal law, ganyan. So
Yes.
the laws, by its very design, it cannot be totally without
Okay.
discrimination. Okay?
Mm. Mm.
But baka minsan na-interpret natin yung discrimination versus distinction. Because I think
Uh-huh.
what the proponents of the SOGI bill are crying foul over is the mere fact that that there's distinction based on sex.
Mm. Mm.
When that distinction is built in many laws. For example, Jay, yung
Mm.
Magna Carta for women.
Mm.
Women are given extended maternity leaves, are given incentives, given certain privileges, which only women can enjoy. In a
Yes.
sense,
And that's
if
fine.
you're trying to be and if you're trying to be funny, you can say that's discriminatory against us
Oo
men,
nga,
di
oo nga.
ba?
Oo.
But it's a law, and we recognize the noble intention behind that law, and everyone agrees
Yes.
because we see the actual need for women to enjoy those rights. So, yun, I think there's a blurring of the lines between distinction and discrimination. And whenever there's distinction that touches on sex, on their, on the biological reality of their gender,
Mm.
duna. That's when they cry foul.
Okay.
That's when they say, "Oh, I'm not able to enjoy the rights, the benefits that my preferred sex is supposed to enjoy under the law."
Okay.
Parang
S
ganun yung ano. Oo.
galing, galing. Salamat sa explanation na ito, Attorney Joel.
Mm-mm.
And now babasahin na yung mga fine prints naman yung pag-uusapan natin sa SOGIE
Okay.
bill.
So,
What's the big
mm.
deal nga pala dito sa SOGIE bill? Why do we
Yes,
oppose this? Mga bigots ba
yes.
tayo? Anti-gay, anti-trans? So ano ba talaga?
Well, una, we have to let everyone know, and
Mm.
those from the LGBT community very much included, that we do not condone any form of undue violence,
Mm.
undue inequality, and undue discrimination. We are one with them in trying to suppress all of these. These are violations, or these are affronts to the dignity of the human person, which we value. Our constitution is quite clear when it says that the state recognizes the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. That's for all of us, and we have to have a concerted effort to really
Mm.
make that uh, state principle a reality.
Mm.
But yun nga, when we study the bill further, what we see there in na dinagdag ng mga legislators is really a state-sponsored promotion of a particular ideology.
Yes. Mm.
And that ideology is that a person may freely choose and change his or her gender, and that such choice should be binding on the entire state and must be observed and respected by all. And those who do not agree may face liability under the law, which may come in the form of imprisonment of at least 6 years and the payment of fines of, I think, to as much as 500,000 pesos. Only if a
Mm.
person does not does not recognize their choice of gender. I think that's the most problematic
Mm.
because
Mm.
here
Mm.
we will now change the way we have understood or have regarded persons since time immemorial. That for us, persons, their sex and gender, um, are dictated by one's biological makeup. And this has been the status quo
Yes.
since time immemorial. And then
Mm.
now, kung maipasa itong panukalang batas na
Mm.
ito, those persons who do not agree, imagine, may be jailed or may be asked to pay hefty fines. Now, unang-una, the mere fact that the state will promote a particular ideology without regard to what we have held as true, I think it's problematic. Particularly when we look at the ideology itself.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ideology itself is quite flimsy. You
Yeah.
know, Jay, I attended
Mm.
one gender training.
Uh.
Um,
Uh.
sponsored or conducted by the people behind the SOGIE bill. I did
Mm.
not identify myself as Alfie. Parang I was just another
Oh yeah.
spectator
Mm.
there.
Mm.
So this was a gender training conducted for law professors. So I attended that. So I just wanted to see what their ideology was. And
Mm.
really, their main advocacy was that gender is fluid, subjective, and it is really one's personal preference. In the law, it is worded as one's inmost identity or inmost conviction as to
Mm.
who he or she is. And
Mm.
then during that seminar, Jay,
Mm.
I wanted to get it right from the horse's mouth, kung baga, di ba?
Mm. Mm.
So I asked them, so are you saying then that gender really is fluid? Sabi nila, yes.
Mm.
Yun yung ano nila, that anytime it can change. Now this becomes highly problematic when put into law because law is supposed to be objective, fixed, and something that must provide for standards. So
Mm.
it will lead to a lot of legal complications, and our courts will be bombarded with cases because someone's gender preference at that particular point in time was not respected, and therefore case before the court on the basis of SOGI. And then mahirapan yung society to function well because
Mm.
right now, if that happens, we will all always be on our toes thinking, wait, ano bang gender, ano nito? How
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
I, how, di ba? How do
Yeah.
I conduct myself in such a way that I will not become liable under the law?
Na hindi ka
Such
makukulong.
objective na hindi ka makukulong. Yung
Oo.
ganyang standards cannot be found in the law because they adopted really yung idea that gender is subjective, fluid, and based on their innermost
Mm.
identity and preference.
No. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting na naka-attend ka pala nitong mga
Oh.
ganitong training. Madalas na frustrate ako, Attorney
Mm.
Joel, dahil parang ang
Oo.
lakas ng kabilang side. Hindi pa napapasayo yung SOGIE bill, pero
Mm.
nandiyan na yung mga precedent for it. It seems like
Yes.
parang na-smuggle nila ito sa GAD, Gender and Development, yung mga
Ah,
policies na in favor sa LGBTQ plus
yes.
agenda. And correct,
Actually,
mm,
yes, yes, go ahead.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm.
ang GAD is supposed to be for women empowerment. Pero ang
Yes, yes.
daming parang makikita mo ng mga
Mm.
policies sa GAD sa buong bansa na hindi na women empowerment lang yung sinusulong eh.
Mm.
Parang iniisip ko parang kung dito pa lang sobrang favored
Mm.
na ang
Oo.
ang bagay na to, what more kung naipasa na yung SOGIE bill?
Tama, tama. Actually, recently nakapunta ako sa isang municipal hall at meron
Mm-mm.
bawat munisipyo ngayon, City Hall merong Gender and Development
Kahit
Office.
public schools.
So, yes, so makikita natin doon yung LGBT flag ganyan.
Oo, oo.
So, paano naman halimbawa, 'di ba? Tama ka eh. Really the purpose of that law is to help facilitate or enhance gender equality, meaning male female.
Yeah. Oo.
Perhaps giving women more role in society, etc. So, paano na yan if there's a biological male who identifies as a female? Will it
Mm-mm.
not defeat the purpose, 'di ba, for
Tama.
passing that
It makes
law to
sense.
begin
Oo
with?
nga. Oo nga.
So, paano na lang yung Magna Carta for women, 'di ba?
Mm.
Can
Mm.
a biological male who merely identifies as a female now acquire the benefits under the Magna Carta for women?
Mm.
Paano na yung decades-long battle for women equality when now men can get these benefits simply by identifying as a woman or as a female? So
Mm.
we see it
Oo.
really complicates the laws. Oh.
Ah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your experience in Congress, Attorney Joel.
Mm.
I'd like to say thank you for standing for truth, goodness, and just biological facts in Congress. How does it feel presenting our side of the issue in Congress?
Well, I'd have to say it's always nerve-wracking kasi you'll never know how your message will be received. You see, and this is not just in the SOGI, but I think my very first appearance in Congress was in the Senate for the divorce bill. And
Mm,
always when it's those issues, Jay, divorce,
mm.
ano ba, divorce and SOGI,
Yun yung big ngayon eh,
yung, yan, oo,
yung dalawa na yun.
that yung camp nila are always united. They're one united front and they go together and ang dami nilang tao. I remember
Mm,
nung divorce, parang ilan lang kaming nasa side natin. Tapos everyone else
mm,
with placards, may media, kompleto sila. And you're really looked at as the villain. The
mm,
same thing for the SOGI hearings. You can just feel the weight of their stare. Na parang sino ba tong mga walang pusong mga taong to para sa mga naaapi.
mm,
And that really becomes the narrative.
mm,
Those pushing for the SOGI are the ones discriminated and really taken advantage of in society. Those who advocate for them are those who are, fighting the good fight and
mm,
trying to help elevate Philippine society to become more inclusive. And
mm,
coming on the other side, it also doesn't help that sometimes the people we appear in Congress with would start quoting the Bible. I mean,
Even na ano na parang you're making a secular point
yes,
minsan,
yes.
di ba?
Oo.
Parang
Kasi kami, Jay, sa Alfie, as much as possible, whenever we submit our position papers and we present in Congress, we base our arguments on research, scientific
mm,
research, fact, ganyan. And we try to veer away from religious
mm.
argument.
Yes,
Kasi, uh,
kaya naman eh.
oo, kasi, kaya naman. Oo, kaya
Oo,
naman, precisely. And
oo,
sometimes, when we become to based on scripture, medyo no-off na yung discussion.
Oo nga.
So,
Pero doon tayo
to answer
pinipaint
your
ng ano,
question,
doon tayo pinipaint ng
oo,
other side eh. Parang ang narrative
yes,
nila is you only oppose this because
oo,
of the Bible, because
the
your church
Bible,
says so,
oo.
'di ba? So yun yung ano,
Yes,
yun yung
yes.
narrative nila.
Yun yung narrative. So, ang mahirap dyan kasi pag nung halimbawa nag-appear tayo sa Senate or sa Congress, yung mga congressman mismo at yung senator, sila mismo yung advocate. So,
Mm-mm.
minsan, mataray sila sa inyo, or halimbawa, nagsasalita ka, hindi pa tapos yung time mo, pinapa-wrap up ka na. So,
Mm.
ganyan yung mga ine-expect ko ng nangyayari tuwing tayo nag-hearings. But
Mm.
interestingly, my last in-person Congress hearing was just, I think, back in November, and
Mm.
it's in the House of Representatives. It's Committee on Human Rights,
Mm.
and yung head dyan ay si Congressman Benny Abante, and I think he used to be a pastor or yung kapatid niya pastor. So for the first
Mm.
time,
Wow.
medyo friendly sa atin yung
Wow.
yung committee, and we were given airtime. We were able to really present our position paper, and after natin magsalita, sabi niya, attorney, I agree with everything you said. So it was the
Galing.
very masayang moment yon, and perhaps a rare moment that we're able to present our side freely during Congress. But yeah, during congressional hearings, always nakakaba. But then you just, well, personally, I pray a lot before, during, and after, and we just keep in mind that really this is our Lord's battle, and we're just
Yes.
trying to cooperate.
Mm. When I read news about the SOGIE bill, minsan na-frustrate ako sa mga politicians natin. Parang ignorant ba sila sa mga nangyayari sa Western countries that
Mm,
already have these laws? For example, yung mga lalaking nag-expose ng male parts nila kapag pumapasok sa female spaces like
mm,
bathrooms, locker
mm,
rooms, yung mga trans women or yung biological men na
mm,
nakakasali sa
mm,
women's sports, to
mm,
name a few. Parang nangyayari na to sa ibang bansa, di ba? Parang
mm.
nafo-frustrate ako, parang hindi ba sila aware na nangyayari to sa US or nagbubulag-bulagan sila? What's your thought on that?
I think they try to minimize those harmful effects that the West is already experiencing, because they are bent on presenting this as a human right and anti-discrimination issue.
Mm.
I feel like as long as they're able to give this law to the LGBT community, they're already okay. They've already done their part, and then
Mm.
we deal with those problems later on
Ooh,
when they're actually there.
ouch.
Kasi I think ganun talaga yung naging narrative eh.
Mm-mm.
We would bring that up, yung mga ganyang, not
Mm-mm.
just us, even other groups
Mm-mm.
na, I think the last time it was Eddie Villanueva who said na, if we allow this, yung attraction to practically any person, what would stop us from recognizing a person's attraction to an animal, a person's attraction to an inanimate thing, ganyan.
Mm.
So whenever when he said that, and whenever something says something outrageous like that, talagang violent reaction
Medyo.
from the other side.
Mm.
Oh,
Although slippery
so
slope yun eh, but you can give
oo nga eh.
tangible examples na nangyari
Oo,
na sa ibang
yes,
bansa.
yes.
Like recently, meron lang lalaki na I think sa US or sa Canada na nagrereklamo siya, hindi siya makapasok ng female gym.
Mm, mm,
Pero nag-identify siya as female, as a woman,
mm, mm.
kaso mukhang lalaki pa rin siya eh.
Oo, oo.
And ang daming mga cases na ganun. Like yung isa sa
Yes.
Los Angeles sa Wii Spa, may
Mm,
lalaki nag-identify as a woman, naghubad sa spa in front
mm,
of the kids. May mga kids
mm,
din doon sa
mm.
spa, pinakita yung kanyang ari. Tapos
Yes.
nag-identify siya as a woman. Pero
Mm, mm, mm,
siya yung sinaydan ng
mm,
spa
mm.
owners. So there
Yes.
are
So
tangible examples.
actually sa atin din recently, 'di ba, yung Zara issue,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yung I think may transsexual
Mm-mm.
trans man
Transgender,
yata or
transgender.
transgender
Mm.
who
Trans
wanted to use the fitting room na pambabae, tapos yeah, tapos hindi siya pinayagan, 'di ba? And then it
mm.
caused an uproar sa social media. And then of course, yung mga advocates, they picked up that news to use it to their advantage,
Oh yeah,
saying
yeah.
na, oh, this is
Kaya nga.
precisely why we need the SOGIE bill. But hindi ba nila na-consider, what about those who do not feel comfortable knowing that there's a person of the opposite sex inside their fitting room?
Mm-mm.
That will be a highly contentious issue, Jay, if ever this bill is passed, because
Oo nga eh.
one of the discriminatory practices sa SOGIE bill ay yung denying access to a facility like a comfort room, fitting room, or breastfeeding room
Oh yeah.
on the
Mm.
basis of one's gender. So let's say the SOGIE bill is passed. Yung sinasabi mo kanina, that could very well happen in our country. A
Mm-mm.
man, you know, who at that moment identifies as a woman, sabihin lang niya, oh, now I'm a woman, I go to the comfort room. And then what happens if once inside the comfort room of the female, he identifies back into a man, di ba?
Ay, oo.
And
Oo. Kaya nga.
di ba? And commits an act of lasciviousness. So what we see here is that the idea that gender is fluid and maybe changed at any time is really dangerous
Mm-mm.
society.
True.
And there's a
True.
reason why our many societies and structures, many um, uh, ano ba, many structures or
Mm-mm.
many groups in our society are based on the distinction between a man and a woman.
Mm-mm.
Halimbawa, yung all boys schools, all girls schools, yung seminaries, convents, ganyan.
Mm-mm.
Kung kung mawala na yung ano, yung pagkakaiba ng babae at lalaki, paano na lamang yung mga institusyon na kagaya nun?
Yes, yes. Uh,
Oo.
and ang isa sa frustration ko right now, we're just talking about
Mm.
foresight. In other countries, in hindsight na nila iniisip yung mga
Yes.
nagawa nilang
Oo.
batas. And na-mention
Mm.
mo yung yung mga institutions, yung mga
Mm,
spaces.
mm.
In
Yes.
other countries, may female uh, jail for
Mm.
female prisoners
Yes.
na may may nag-identify as female, nalipat siya sa female
Mm.
jail,
Mm. Mm.
and he impregnated yung mga ibang prisoners doon. So,
So,
nangyari na yon sa ibang bansa.
yan.
Ah,
Oo.
ang question ko, may kakampi ba tayo sa mga feminist side? Kasi sila yung pinaka mukhang agrabyado dito. Halimbawa yung Gabriela. They're
Mm. Mm.
the feminist group dito sa bansa
Mm.
natin. So,
So far, Jay, wala akong nakasabay na feminist group who are against SOGIE bill or that are
mm,
against the SOGIE bill. So far, ang mga against the SOGIE bill na nakasabay natin ay either religious groups or
mm,
mga indigenous groups.
mm, mm, okay.
Kasi halimbawa, yung mga indigenous groups, yung mga tribes, for
Mm,
them it's really taboo for a man to be allowed to wear women's clothing.
mm,
Kaya whenever they present in Congress, talagang very strong din yung kanilang
mm,
reaction against the SOGIE bill.
mm,
So nakakatawa nga kasi ngayon yung mga medyo liberal members of Congress who are pushing for both IP rights, women's rights, and then LGBT rights are torn between
Oo.
yung LGBT saka yung IP. Parang sino ngayon yung kakampihan mo dyan?
Oo.
So ganun yung
Whoever
nangyayari.
gives them the more votes na lang siguro. Were they ever asked sa Congress yung what is a woman question?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I
But
think ilagay mo sa ano yun.
magandang tanungin yun. Oh.
Oo. Kasi usually, hindi ko lang kung napanood ba yung documentary na What is a Woman.
Not
It's a
yet.
good
Yung kay
documentary.
Matt Walsh,
Yung
no?
kay Matt Walsh.
I've
Watch,
been meaning to watch that.
you prepare sa next na hearing mo sa Congress.
Oo.
And it's a
Oo.
good question na siguro
Mm.
tanongin sila and nagiging
Mm.
circular yung
Mm.
yung sagot
Mm.
mo. Yeah,
Mm.
what's holding SOGIE bill for now bago ito tuluyang maipasa?
Well, yung last Congress, if I may be open to everyone, we had a strong ally in the Senate President.
Mm,
Back then, si Senate President Tito Soto
mm,
vowed to many anti-SOGIE groups. And sabi niya, during his incumbency as Senate President, divorce, same-sex marriage, death penalty, SOGIE will not pass. Sabi niya, he will work against it. He will do whatever he can for these bills not to become
mm,
laws. So
mm,
nung time na yon, medyo kampante tayo kasi Senate President na yung nagsabi. Eh.
mm,
So ang nangyayari lang, pumapasa sa committee and then hindi na siya natatackle sa plenary. But
mm,
this time, medyo kulang tayo ng kakampi sa Senate at sa Congress. And di ba, I told you about that seminar I attended.
yes.
That seminar was attended by staff ni Senator Hontiveros, and they
Mm.
were saying na this time the SOGI bill will pass.
Ooh. Okay.
So nakakabahala,
Mm,
nakakatakot, pero well, we'll fight them every step of the way. Hindi natin papayagan. We'll also do what we can
mm.
para hindi matuloy yan. Mhm.
Okay, Attorney Joel, we're almost at the end of the episode. Ang saya ng usapan natin.
Okay.
I just want to
Oo.
ask, anong pwedeng gawin namin ng isang ordinaryong concerned citizen sa issue na ito?
Mhm. Una, siguro magsimula tayo sa pamilya natin. No?
Mm,
Let's make sure that we shield our children, our young ones, from this dangerous ideology.
mm,
Kasi we don't hold we many things are outside of our control. One of which is what laws will pass. Kasi at the end of the day, it may very well be just a political issue and wala tayong magagawa. But if we keep our family, the values of our children intact, then no matter what crazy laws are passed in the future, we are safe and we are
mm,
assured of the well-being of our children. And then I think it's important for us to get to know the issues.
mm.
This your podcast, Jay, I'm sure will be very helpful to many people to know
Thank
what
you.
the issues are and why it's so dangerous for us, especially for those who really care for their families and for those who value their faith. So we try to get to know the issues and then we try to get involved. Let's talk to our family members about it. Let's talk to our leaders about it.
Mm,
Kung yung congressman ninyo, maaari ninyong sulatan,
mm,
do that. Kung meron kayong, you yourself, Jay, o kung
mm.
sino pa man, you can write your own position paper and then submit that in Congress, present it there. You
Thank you.
see, this is really part of the democratic process of getting as many people as possible involved in the process of making laws. And you have a standing to be there. Lahat po ng mga nakikinig, if this is something that you feel strongly against, write a position paper, submit it to Congress, or submit it to your congressman para malaman nila or to your favorite senator para malaman nila that the narrative that is in the media na lahat ay payag dito at lahat ay gusto na itong mapasa, it's good for them to know that this is not the case. And we
Mm,
need to get our voices heard. And really, it would help if more people would appear with us in Congress. Always, kung may mga hearing na ganyan, we're always outnumbered. And we don't get as much airtime as we would want. But if we get groups to come together, to write their position papers, and then to battle with us in Congress, then I think it would really further our cause to protect our traditional values and to protect who we really are as a Filipino society.
thank you, Attorney Joel. Uh, aside from that, what are the next steps for Alfie?
Well, kami sa Alfie, we are still on the lookout for
Mm,
mga possible bills that may be filed. And then right now we're trying to collaborate with other persons who are also working against these bills.
mm.
So yan, if you want, kung meron mang interesadong sumali sa Alfie, we are on Facebook. You can get in touch with us. We need more brilliant lawyers. more brilliant doctors to help us in our research para tuloy-tuloy yung laban natin.
Yeah. And what can we tell our brothers and sisters LGBTQ plus community why we oppose the SOGIE bill without them feeling na we don't care for them? Yung uh, middle ground that we can tell them.
Mhm. Well, we can always offer them our friendship,
Mm.
and we can always accompany them, in their struggle,
Mhm.
in their journey, in their pursuit for happiness. We're all in that journey together, but we also tell them that we also have to protect certain institutions that go beyond personal preferences. That
Mm.
we want to ensure that our society is still one that values objective truth,
Mm.
and a society that still values what it means to be,
Mm.
sorry, a society that still values the dignity of the human person,
Mm. Mm.
and that and such dignity is grounded on the authentic understanding of who a human person is.
Mm. Mm.
So, in other words, if that explanation is too long for them, we shake their hands, we embrace them, and then we tell them that we understand you,
Mm.
and we accept you, and
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
both try to advocate for what will really be good
Yeah.
for the individual person.
Nicely said. They
Parang ganun.
they're more than what their sexual orientations are.
Tama.
They're a person. Di ba?
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
ayun, Attorney.
Tsaka,
Oh,
siguro
go ahead.
last na
Go ahead.
lang, Jay,
Yeah.
kung meron man nakikinig sa atin ng mga LGBT na reformed, or yung mga who previously lived a homosexual lifestyle and then now reformed, married, that testimony is very powerful.
Oh yeah, I agree. Oo nga.
Grabe yan. Kung nagsalita sila na, before I was this, I was living a life like this, but now I'm married with kids.
Mm. And happy.
There are
And
no,
happy.
and happy,
Oo.
happy, at peace, content. There
Oo.
are no arguments against that.
Oo. And maraming
No,
maraming ganun. They just need
madaming
to
ganun.
speak out.
Yes,
Oo.
and no amount of research would, equal that kind of powerful personal testimony.
All right, Attorney Joel, thank you for everything that you do. Please invite the audience again sa Alfie, or kung paano namin makikita yung mga ginagawa niyo sa social media. How can we follow
Yes,
you?
nasa Facebook kami, Alliance for the Family Foundation, or ALFI. Just leave us a like, and yun, we are also on Instagram, alfie.ph. So we post our content there. You can get in touch with us through our social media platforms, and yun, I hope to work with all of you closely in our many battles in the future.
All right. This has been another episode of the J. Aruga Show. At the end of the day, it will be night. Goodbye. Hi, this is J. Aruga of the J. Aruga Show. If you like what you just saw, please consider subscribing and smash that like button. We'll need all of your help to take back the culture from this ideological colonization of the West. Thank you.